So Cave Crave is a game that seemingly came out of nowhere and shot to the top of many people's most wanted lists. And we've played it, and we can tell you it's good fun. But we also recently played Tunnels, which you can see a review of up here. So how do the two compare? If you're only going to buy one spelunking adventure game, which one is it going to be? So Cave Crave situates itself as a realistic simulation of cave adventuring. It's a game that is designed to emote the genuine feeling of being in these caves. While Tunnels is about the horror element and the creeping and the crawling of potential death, Cave Crave is more about actually experiencing spelunking, cave adventuring, whatever you want to call it. The game features a handful of maps which can at first be played as part of a story and then later unlocked in a free roam, essentially like a time trial kind of mode. When you're first playing through the story, you enter the shoes of a guy whose father has died and left him some kind of inheritance, you believe, at the bottom of these caves. It's quite strange, but there you have it. As you're adventuring through the caves, you learn more about this story and the fact that his father used to take him on these experiences, and as such, it's more about remembering how to travel through these caves rather than it is learning about them. For the character, not for you. The first map is super straightforward and teaches you the basics of adventuring through these caves. And it's actually quite immersive, quite engrossing. The visuals are of very high quality because, of course, it's only drawing a few inches in front of your face. And everything that it draws is pretty similar. So you can expect a detailed, immersive experience for those few inches, which is great. Because you genuinely feel like you are trapped in these small spaces. This is not a game for people with claustrophobia. There are moments at which the cave shrinks even smaller, and so in the game you have to hold your breath in order to progress. The idea is obviously you're making yourself thinner to fit through these spaces. And should you release the triggers that you have to press in order to hold your breath, while you're crawling through these tight spaces, you will die and reload at a checkpoint. The key thing I want to bring up here, the reason why I'm mentioning this, is because the game is so immersive that in the same way I was using the triggers to hold my breath in the game, my real body in the real world was unconsciously also holding my breath. There's nothing to suggest immersion better than an experience that you are doing something in VR and it triggers a natural body reaction to do the same thing in the real world. Now, as I say, there is a handful of maps in the game, more are promised to come later. Of course they are. But the first map is pretty straightforward. The second map is about teaching you how to use tools, and here things ramp up significantly. It is very easy to get lost in this second map. Now, I watched back some of the video footage of me going through this cave, and I was clearly saying to myself, no, you're going the wrong way, you've already been that route. But when you're in it, when you're in that experience and everything looks the same, it's very hard sometimes to think, oh, have I been down that shaft? That opening over there, I've seen it before, but did I actually travel down there? In order to suggest to yourself where you have been and so on, you can use chalk to mark certain specific tablets, stones, that exist within the caves. And you can draw whatever you like on these. Some people would suggest drawing arrows, which I'm assuming is the normal thing you would do when going through caves. I myself like to doodle, and that was simply so that I could recognize that specific one, and I remember the order in which I drew these doodles. So when I came back across my lovely Ninja Turtle, I knew it was the first one that I'd drawn in this cave. But knowing that this was the first one I'd drawn in the cave was only a small trigger of my memory, because there is an entrance rope that leads you into the cave and an exit rope, and the idea is to progress from one to the next. But they look almost identical. And as such, I came across the exit rope at one point and thought, hey, this is where I came in from. So I ended up spending another 10 minutes exploring the cave, only to realise that what had happened is that the next stage of the level hadn't triggered my next instruction, and as such, when I approached the rope, I had no suggestion it was the exit. And this is an issue with Cave Crave as it stands. When we first loaded the game, we loaded into an almost empty environment, but the story kept playing, and we had to reload in order to make the cave environment appear around us. When I was playing the second level, and then later in the game too, but we're just going to keep it to the first few levels so we don't spoil anything here. When I was playing the second level, it's teaching you how to use the tools that you come across in that second level. And I completed the first task, and I came to the second tool, picked it up, but nothing triggered. And so I didn't know what to do with it, and I just left it there. And then spent another 10 minutes exploring the cave before circling back, and lo and behold, the objective triggered. So I'd already seen much of the cave and got lost and returned before I could actually progress. So while Cave Crave, as it stands, is a good immersive cave exploring experience, there are issues. There's the lack of content, there's bugs that need fixing pretty quickly, and there's also the comparison to Tunnels. Now, for that comparison, once again, Tunnels is a game about crawling through tunnels being chased by alien or whatever gribbly beastie monster things. Okay? Cave Crave is a game about a simulation almost of exploring caves. But Cave Crave does also feature a mode in which you are chased by some beastie. Again, I don't want to spoil too much here, but it has been highlighted as recently as a feature of Cave Crave. And I wonder, this is just my hypothesis, I have no evidence for this, I wonder if this is a reaction to the fact that Cave Crave was launching so close to Tunnels, because Tunnels has only been out a few weeks now. What Cave Crave does is it has its simulation of cave adventuring and exploring, and then it has this horror element too, which is optional. So it does its own simulation thing, but then also does what Tunnels does. The difference here is it lacks multiplayer, at least at launch. There may be multiplayer coming. I haven't experienced that yet or heard anything about it, so I don't know. So realistically, Cave Crave is trying to do both things, and Tunnels is just trying to do the one thing. Cave Crave does a good job of what Tunnels does, but it's not quite as impactful. They said that the horror mode is too scary for some people, and I can believe that. But for my personal experience, it was an acceptable, enjoyable horror take on this cave exploration. So ultimately, if you're looking for a realistic simulation of spelunking and cave exploration, Cave Crave is the one. If you're looking for a horror experience, Tunnels is the one to go to. And that seems pretty straightforward to me. So take your pick, check them out, let us know in the comments which one you prefer.